Alright guys, here we are to talk about Season 1, Episode 9 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Puppet Show.
I don't usually look at the names beforehand, but that would have helped.
It would have been a little bit of a tip-off.
I mean, you know, it comes out pretty early of what's going on or something.
Well, yes, you do definitely believe it is a puppet from the jump. So this episode starts off at the talent show, which could also have been the name of this episode. We find out that Cordelia can't sing.
It's pretty good. She does some pretty good bad singing.
I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow.
I actually meant to look up, can she sing, and is that acting?
I don't know.
Because she strikes me as somebody who was in I was in Miss America type things, and I had to do all these different talents.
Yeah.
So I feel like she can sing.
He's getting close, feel him, inevitable end.
I felt that too, but that might just be our bias towards
Maybe.
our image of her or something.
My natural thing is that if I like anyone, they can do everything.
Just whatever. Well, she seems like that type of person, but
Yeah.
that may be our impression where it's like.
Do you think she can cook?
No.
I don't know. I could smell a mean casserole. But we get another one of those slip-ups that I can't stand in this episode.
Oh no.
Where you introduce to Snyder, the new principal, and while he's forcing our Scoobies to not only attend but to be in the talent show, he's like, and you guys think that class is voluntary? You skipped out your afternoon classes. Well, we were fighting we weren't fighting. We were trying to get away from fighting.
All three of you left campus yesterday.
Yeah, but we were fighting a demon.
Fighting?
Not fighting.
No, we left to avoid fighting.
They shouldn't be slipping up. We have eight
So-
weeks at the very least of this doing it, and Buffy's been a Slayer for at least months before that.
So what I think is going on here is comedy. This is for
I
comedy.
hate comedy.
They're like, not fishing. It's just we're gonna say the thing, and then the other person's gonna be like, instead of we just said the thing, because that's in real life. They'd be like, no, you just said that. I'm not gonna give this up. But no.
Well, this episode, if we're gonna bitch about anything, I'm gonna jump all the way to the end real quick.
Uh-huh.
There is an unexcusable, unexplainable ending to this episode where the curtain comes up. There is a dead demon with his top of his dome just ripped off.
Skull cap.
You're holding a dummy. There's a scene where you're like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Avant-garde art?
So that was how I thought they were going to save it. And it's, okay, they do a double dip thing here. I'm glad we're talking about the end first. We can get this out of the way so I can clear my mind of this. Because it was really funny when they do their bad acting. Oh, Oedipus, what is happening?
Oh, yes.
That was funny.
But he is dead and hidden deep in the soil. But surely I must fear my mother's bed.
Oh, Oedipus, Oedipus, unhappy Oedipus.
But that should have been during a practice or something, and the ending should have been them all on stage, and then they have to go with it, and then one of them randomly starts talking, and it's this weird thing, and everyone's applauding it's brilliant, and they win the talent show, but then the curtains close, and they quickly dispose of the stuff, right? And they just play it off, or credits, and it's just what?
I don't get it.
But now, yes.
Because it's unexplainable. What happened there? Did they quickly change it to an outfit? Even if we're to explain, because that used to happen, or it still does. It happens during the credits. So that is the first time we see a scene happen during the credits. It is the only time that ever happens, to the best of my knowledge.
whole show.
That never happens again, where there's something happening at the credits time. And even I've seen this on TV sometimes where that part wasn't there. So I don't know if for time or whatever they cut that out. But what I say here is the fact that it doesn't end right there, and even if it did, you would not be able to explain it, because a moment after you go on a talent show, somebody else goes on, and it's all right, we're just dragging a bloody body off the
and then someone says, wow, that looks
commitment.
That looks real, and you're like, yep, he's a whiz with that stuff, and Xander's like, who? And it's like and then the episode's over, and then or cut so we don't have to think about it. Don't show us the thing.
I will always think regardless.
No. But showing that that same night, if not directly after that, they went on again. Why would you go on again?
I can take that as the lulls. That's us getting to see what they would have done in a parallel universe.
Right?
I don't know, but the fact that it does cut. There's audience. There's people there.
Yeah, and your thing about how this may not even be broadcast, and this is unusual. Now I'm sure I didn't know any of that, so I'm like, yes, this is double dipping. You filmed this, and then you were like, you know what the funniest thing ever is fucking put it in there.
I do love when Willow runs off, and then
really
like Buffy just like fills in that space and grabs the staff.
No, it's really funny.
What would have really sold it is if they would have bowed. If they would have been like, and we're done. Like that was part of it. She was supposed to run. She was Zeus's fucking something. Get out of here.
Oedipus's wife. I don't know what's going on, but no, like yes, like it's too funny to not give to the people.
Agreed. I enjoy it very much.
So they had to do it, but yes, it makes the whole thing at the end this weird where I'm like, okay, come on, or whatever.
Yeah. Like while we're talking about things that are like almost too good to give up, I'm a little shocked they gave away they let the puppet actually die. I enjoy this puppet character. I think it would have been fun to have him out in the world, like
come back, perhaps?
Well, yeah, like a puppet slayer. And they did pull him back in the video game. He's there.
That's it, open wide.
Okay. The puppet is still there, right?
Well, the physical body of the puppet, yes. But in I think it was Chaos Bleeds, he's there as a playable character for like a level, and it was something like he had pissed off the demon or something, and wouldn't let him die, and just switched him into another puppet's body.
Right. No, even though it ends the way it ends, they still could have, And one day I woke up and I was back in the puppet. Like what happened? They could have just done it if they wanted to.
Sure.
Like they're not like their hands are not tied here. Right?
And they never put out merch. That would have been a cool puppet to buy.
The puppet, yes.
They did do other puppets. There's a puppet of Spike and there's a puppet of Angel. More than one, in fact. There's like vamped out version, regular version, vamped out version, regular version. It might even be battle damage version. It might be 5. But I would have liked to see his.
Yeah.
I would have bought his.
Just buy a Brian Regan puppet because he had a weird shape of his
face.
That's
super true.
I was like, what? There's one scene where he turns around, he's looking at it. I was like, what?
Not
the big yellow one's the sun.
The big yellow one's the sun. The yellow one is the sun.
Yeah, I was like,
from the she-mantis when they're like the head turns around in class.
Yes, there's always people's heads
explainable
in class. Yes.
I liked a lot about that.
So the puppet, right? The like titular puppet. There's a point in this episode where I was like, I wasn't into it anymore.
Okay.
There's so much that happens, and I'm like, I get it. It's the puppet and the thing, and you're showing, what the fuck? You keep showing me all these things. I was like, ugh, this is going to be 2 in a row of like subpar episodes. Like, this is garbage. It's so predictable. I hate this. And then Buffy fights the puppet, and they have that moment where it's like, oh, and then you'll get the heart. Now I won't have the heart, and you'll do this. What? And they both say what at the same time?
What?
And then cutting to the puppet explaining, like, I'm actually a demon hunter. And Giles like, oh, well, this is highly irregular, but I appreciate someone else explaining things. I was like, this is my favorite episode now. It pulled a complete 180 for me. They let it go for so long. They took such a risk on me that I'd be like, fuck this episode. And then to have it redeem itself so strong, I was like, oh, this is such a great twist. It's such a great thing or whatever.
This episode has the worst ratings of any episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer ever made.
What?
And that's not like, I don't think fan review. I think that's physical, like tuned in to watch.
Oh, yeah.
So it might have been like,
okay.
Like the trailer and you're like, yeah, I saw the coming attractions. That's the last episode. I don't give a shit about that.
Bro, the first commercial break on actual television, I don't know if I would have made it through like a Tide commercial without like Star Trek on, Star Trek's always on. I would have gone to some other
and
like
that could be it.
This may be the answer because yes, again, Joss Whedon, whoever was in charge of this, they decided to play it out. I think it's 2 or 3 commercial breaks where you're like,
probably.
I get it. The puppet is the thing, and that's not him. He's just like my head and the puppet. I know. It's so clear. And then they pull this neat little. I was like, I'm so happy. It's so pleasant now.
It's fun to see the horny puppet shtick be a real. That's just his personality.
Yes.
He's been in a puppet for so long. He probably would be.
Yes.
Just saying, because
has a lot of built-up wood.
We know for like to date him, he knew a Slayer in the 30s.
Yeah.
So it's unclear as if he knew them as a puppet or as a person.
Yeah. Does he say something?
Oh no, he said I was a human then. I think he said I was a human then.
Okay.
So at the very least, he was alive in the 30s. We don't know what age he was when he got turned into a puppet though. So he could have been 50.
Based on the voice, I'm thinking grizzled noir detective or
certainly
something
possible.
like that.
So he could have been like in his 50s, got turned, like around then, and then bam, this guy's old as shit.
The immortal puppet thing, yeah. No, and like, because the whole thing makes so much sense without that, but it's so boring and shitty, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this like repressed nerd, and he's like, my head and the demon is doing the thing, or, you know, and everyone thinks like, wow, that's kind of edgy for you, dude. You're like a nerd. And he's like, no, it's not me. I told you it wasn't me. Like, I had the whole episode mapped out in my head, and they pulled the rug out from under me, and I was so delighted.
I just don't like how, almost like how Buffy gives a, we're fighting a demon. Like, you have him like, no, it's the puppet.
No, it's him.
Like, he has that thing where I'm like, what is your connection to him? Like, how did you meet him? Is this your great-great-great-grandfather? Like, I would have liked some explanation there to know, like, why they're together, because he makes some line like, right, should have picked her. Like, did you just meet him today? Like,
exactly.
When did you come into this kid's life?
If this was a different show or, like, a movie or something, you needed that, like, I've always been the nerd, and now is my chance, and then this puppet, and now I'm going to win the talent show, and then pick someone, Cordelia or, like, Willow. He's like, then she'll notice me. Like, some motivational thing where he's like, and then you could go right up to the edge of like, did he make a deal with like the devil puppet to like get the act and do the
puppet
thing?
Devil?
The puppet devil? Is he making puppet deals with the puppet devil? And then to have the same thing of like, no. Like he's not bad. He's actually a victim. I was using him, but I'm the hunter, and there's another guy. The magician who's there, I think from like the very first scene, fucking up every trick and being horrible.
Is the fucking
the guy?
demon.
I'm like, yes.
Is the demon that honestly looks kind of like the Arg mutant enemy thing at the end of that. It's not, I don't believe, but it has a very similar look.
Are things though?
Some things are things.
It could be.
I believe the story behind that is he didn't know he needed a logo, and he drew it really quickly and said, "This is my logo."
And it's like, well, that's just a picture. What is it going to do? And he's like, and they were like,
perfect,
print it. We got it. We're good. Yeah, neat.
I love when the puppet breaks into Buffy's bedroom. So not only do we get that same like Darla face in the window, but you get Xander's line of like, oh, like a cat? Ah, like a cat.
Like a cat.
It was like it pounced on my face.
Like a cat.
Yeah, exactly. But when I turned the lights on, it was already gone. I think it went out my window.
Like a cat.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and even Willow's like, well, you said puppets freak you out, and Giles is like, you had a dream, bitch. So this is something else too that I didn't like remember from the show, but Buffy's the one who's like, no, I think this is demon shit, and Giles is like, bitch, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, more than once now.
Yeah, like as a consistent theme where I'm like, I would think that Giles and an old man librarian would be the one who's like, wait, is this demon shit? I'm so excited. But he's very dismissive, and she, who wants to lead her teenage life, is like, wait, no, we have to stop everything. What if it's demon shit, right?
Yeah, but what about the whole it's a demon theory?
I'm looking into that, but my investigation is somewhat hampered by a life in the theater.
Yeah.
It's very weird to me, and I'm not sure if this keeps going or not, but we'll find out.
What's interesting to me is that, like, in an earlier episode, it was like, oh, I guess I'll look in the books, about like as if, like, like, how ridiculous, it couldn't be in every book. But then in this episode, you have, like,
sections.
They're, like, she's like, okay, I'll be in the, like, living dolls and blah, blah section.
Look what I found in the section on toys and magic.
And I'll be in the demons and heart removal section.
Yeah, like,
you concentrate on reanimation theory. I'll poke about in organ harvesting, unless, of course, you prefer...
That's okay. You can have the organs.
And like, they seem to walk up into, like, the stacks where, like, students would go looking for books. And I do think there is a room that, like, is right beyond that. So, like, they are walking past the stacks into a room.
Once again, I'm banished to the demon section of the card catalog.
But to a casual observer, you're like, wait a minute, are all the books demon shit? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Willow refers to, like, the demon section.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stuck in the demon section again. Yeah, so, like, but I like that humorously because, like in one episode, some dude walks in and Giles is like, "The fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's the library." And he's like, "Oh, right, fuck." Like, no one goes in there, so maybe it is all demon stuff.
Well,
like, okay.
But it does seem that way because even in the last episode, they have books being shipped that students are like touching and scanning and moving about, and I'm like, what is that? Written in fucking Italian or Latin or whatever, and with a picture of a demon on it. Oh, don't concern yourself with that. Shouldn't I? Couldn't I? Could I check this out? Oh, no.
These are very valuable, like, books in Aramaic bound in human flesh and, like, whatever. And you're like, what? Is it holographic? It's glowing. And it's like, kid, don't worry about it. Yeah.
I love that shit.
Come on, Sid. You're spoiling my act.
I like a lot of lines that Xander drops in this episode.
Okay.
I particularly love that he treats, or rather, I also love how he teaches Giles a trick about like how to get Cordelia to stop talking to you with that like mentioning your hair bullshit.
Yes.
That's great.
Your hair,
There's something wrong with my hair? Oh my God.
Xander was right. It worked like a charm.
He saves the day. He grabs that fucking cord out of the air. He snatches a rope and saves Giles from a guillotine.
True.
He also is the one that kidnaps the fucking doll itself,
Yes.
the puppet. I love his shtick with the puppet.
That was some more good bad stuff. So we had the acting at the end. We had Cordelia singing at the beginning. And in the middle, he's just like, I'm a puppet. I'm inanimate. And just like, not only is his mouth like moving, he's not trying to.
Not at all.
It's moving more than usual.
I am not real.
It's like so good, bad, like awesome. And Buffy's like, quit it, fuck you. And he's like,
I forget if there was commentary on this episode.
like
I think it's all improv.
Like
all his bullshit with the puppet.
Like he's doing an impression of a puppet with his face, I think.
Yes,
like,
he is.
It's super,
100% is.
It's really weird. And I enjoyed, and he keeps doing it, right? It takes so long to do. I'm like, oh fuck, it's very funny.
I'm not real. I'm completely inanimate.
Hello.
Bye-bye.
Would you like to hear some off-color jokes?
I'll stay here. And he like makes the eyebrows go up.
When the fucking puppet is not where he left it on the chair.
Yes.
The reaction from the whole peanut gallery there.
So good.
He's up on the table screaming real quick. They come out. He's like, it's not where I left it. And then even Giles jumps up. They're treating it like it's a rat. Like they're just jumping out.
Giles like knocks a globe over and Willow starts freaking out.
Whoa!
What is it?
He's gone. Sid's gone.
What? Oh!
It's perfect.
I love this. I think
Who would not like this episode?
I think it's a funny episode. It's a non-vampire episode. We have no vampires.
No angel, no.
Like relatively low key on the deaths too. It's all off camera stuff. There's not a lot of craziness.
Just some screaming people and some rubber organs that show up later.
Pretty much like gelatin brain.
Yes.
As you see.
Which looked delicious. I actually had a fake out here. So this is the first introduction of the new principal, or
yes.
no? Was he? Okay. So when I saw him, I was like, is he the principal? Is this the real principal now? And once it became clear that like someone else was the bad guy, they immediately cut, I think, to like the principal doing it. And I was like, yeah, is that not a principal? Is it a demon?
They even frame up Giles to be like looking at him and like suspiciously as like his ears are lit from behind. And you're like, what am I looking at?
Those aren't human ears.
Snyder
demon
has
ears.
some brilliant lines though in this one. Like his 3 things policy is fantastic.
Oh, it's a classic comedy triple.
There are things I will not tolerate. Students loitering on campus after school. Horrible murders with hearts being removed. And also smoking.
Oh, I don't do any of those things. Not ever.
He has another one like, what does he say? Something about how Principal Flutie was...
This is the kind of woolly-headed liberal thinking that leads to getting eaten.
I know Principal Flutie would have said, kids need understanding. Kids are human beings. It's the kind of woolly-headed liberal thinking that leads to being eaten.
Indeed. I fucked it up a little, but yes. When he's like explaining, like, I'm gonna run a tight ship around here. You motherfuckers don't stand a chance. And Giles is like, you could ruin our lives. We have to comply. Yes.
Too much suicide, missing people, and spontaneous combustion. I don't allow that kind of stuff.
Suicide, missing persons, spontaneous cheerleader combustion. You can't put up with that.
It's like, good, I don't do any. That's actually a scene that I wanted to talk about, where Buffy breaks into what's his name's locker, and she's like, okay, to the left, okay, to the right, and just
a display of strength.
2 to the left, 3 to the right.
Awesome, subtle display of strength just to knock that lock in out of the thing. It's so good. I love it so much because she just pushes it in, but they play a noise like ka-tung, 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 and it totally sells it. I was like, this is great. I love
the way
this.
Snyder catches her almost immediately though, and like pulls her hand back. You're like, what's happening here? And that also could speak to the you're a demon thing.
Yes, because Flutie was like, I don't allow bad touching, and Snyder's like, bitch, get over here, right? The yin and the yang.
But then you see, like, as like she's about to walk away, like she like is moving to always make sure her back is covering this new hole in the locker.
Okay, yes.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, but it turns out he's not, I think, a demon, at least not in this context, right?
Not to the best of your knowledge.
So far, right? But he's like the new foil for the team, and make them do official school business and ruin their plans of busting up and slaying evil. Definitely a dick. I think what sold me was at the end, like we mentioned a little, but he's the guy that they choose to say, I don't get it. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
What?
Well, because he's got good comic timing.
Yes.
I do enjoy
he's a good,
him.
I don't get it. What is it? Avant-garde?
I wonder though, so you did like right after comically when he says like, it's gonna be quiet around here, there's like a scream and a murder or whatever.
Clean, orderly, and quiet.
Yes. And I have to wonder, how many murders and missing people in any given school in America do you think there have to be before there's like, we're closed? There's no more, we're done.
It's obviously haunted, we're closed, yes.
Right?
Like, there's a dramatic amount of murder, like a constant amount of murder.
Like one every month at least.
I wonder if they're going to catch on. I wonder if they're going to notice.
Well, it keeps the property values low.
They're going to call in the National Guard and declare martial law and make sure that we put a stop to all this.
I love in this episode too, like they do this like thing where they're interviewing people, and it gets to like Xander, he's interviewing Cordelia, and Cordelia does the thing like every fucking bastard does. We're like, we were best friends. I love the blah blah. Has the name wrong. Like it's just like that truly embarrassing thing that you see like all the time when someone dies.
Such a tragedy for me. Emma was like my best friend.
Emily.
And I like that that's Cordelia. Like, you're like, yep, you're just a selfish bitch.
We're characterizing her a lot, and I mostly remember her from Angel, so this is after, like, a relatively significant amount of character development and growth.
She's a lot funnier in Buffy than she's in Angel. Angel, she's like a developed adult.
Yes, and like her purpose here, like when the dummy looks back at like Buffy and them, she's even like, oh good, the two of you can be freaks and go on a date together.
Yeah, go to the carnival.
That's adorable. You and the dummy could tour in the freak show.
Says she's only there to like make fun of and say shit. We're like, oh, this bitch is horrible. That's always like the reaction that I get from her. Yes.
The reaction to like her singing, and then the reaction when they see like a mime and Xander's like, "What?"
Dow, mine.
I think like the little things are the funniest ones in this episode, and that's kind of true across the board. But like those little details are always great. Like, there's one part where like they're running out of a room trying to like get back to save Giles because like Giles is smart and you got to save him.
Hey, Mr. Giles, you're really smart. Giles can handle himself. I mean, he is really smart.
And there's like a janitor, and he looks like he's in a full suit.
Giles!
And I'm like, I love the little things. But I'm like
a suit, like at a wedding, a suit?
Like a suit, yeah. It looks like a full collared like suit thing. Oh. And you only see him for a second, so maybe it's just like some fancy overalls.
Maybe not a janitor. Maybe you're being prejudiced.
He has a dust mop, so like it gives my assumption.
Pitching in.
Yeah. Doing his part.
Local CEO is trying to, he's undercover.
Undercover boss.
Undercover boss.
It's not very good undercover, but he is a good boss.
It's a welcome change to have someone else explain all these things.
So while you mentioned the display of strength as she knocks in the locker, we get another strength display where she gets knocked down with like the chandelier and she like pins. She like can't get out. And you're like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to believe here, because if you can like bash in a door and break a lock with your bare hands, couldn't you lift this thing?
I had the exact same thoughts, like similar thoughts, whatever, where I'm like, this is dumb.
It's always display of convenience.
But that was like the peak of the dumbness, like a roller coaster, before you go, wee, it's a funny puppet thing.
There is something to be said, like when you're pinned flat, like it is a different muscle like, to get your thing, but yes.
No, she should not have had any problem
I
with
agree.
That.
She should have twirled that thing out of the way.
It looked like thick iron, whatever, but no, the strength that she's typically displayed, this should not be an issue. Certainly not to like struggle and then like, oh no, right?
If she hit the dummy, he should have turned into splinters.
Yeah,
like
just shattered into a box of matchsticks.
Yeah. So one last thing is when you got Giles locked in his thing. He's like, oh, and so what is the trick? Trick?
What exactly is the trick?
Trick?
Deadpan like trick, and then just walks away like, what? Yeah.
I thought that was good. Overall, I like this episode. I don't think it's one of the worst ever. I think it's fun.
No.
I would have liked to see more of this puppet. We're not,
Spoilers.
We're not gonna.
Spoilers for me. We're not gonna
Yeah.
see the puppet anymore.
Yeah.
Unless we play that video game.
Exactly.
But no, like I said,
maybe we will.
Totally redeemed for me. Where I was worried for a solid, I think, over half the episode of like, oh no, more derivative BS. Where's the spark? Where's the life? And then
There it was.
I got hit with a ton of bricks. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that was episode 9 of season 1, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next week for episode 10.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.